What? Where am I? Oh! So, don't mind me, just instant transmissioning in. Hey, what's up? That was weird. Move this. There. There? There. I think. I think that's a good spot for that. Alright, hello. Um, Today, I have a very special announcement. Why do Twitch notifications randomly go out? I don't... I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you. I do not work for the Twitch. I just work here. I have a very special announcement to make. If all of you in chat would please go into your channel point redemptions, you might have noticed a new option that just says fish. Somebody give that a whirl for me. There you go. I love this. What do we got? A peacock bass. That's right, my stream is now a game worth playing. I do in fact have a fishing minigame. The stream is a good RPG now. Let's fucking go. For your information, oh dear, oh dear. This is called lurkbait Twitch fishing. It is something that I caught my eye on Twitter like ages ago. Oh dear. Oh, I've given you guys too many toys. Twitch fishing is something I saw on Twitter ages ago, and I just recently saw that it was available for purchase earlier today, so I grabbed that and set it up real quick. Scraper mouth bun. I don't know what that is. Anyway, yeah, I don't know how to control the volume in my own... I don't know how to control the volume on my end, because it's set up as a game capture. So that I can, like, minimize the window and it'll still show up. A carp! Let's go! Andy won the Battle Royale? Goddamn. Yeah, so I don't know how to integrate it. Minimize these nuts in my mouth. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Anywho. Yeah, so you could fish now. Critical mode's kicking your ass. Wait, critical mode in what? Playing Cage 2? Are you still playing Persona? Are playing Cage 2? Oh, fuck! Yeah, critical mode is, it's tough. Motherfuckers play it like it's casual. As I was saying, I can't, because it's a game capture, not a window capture, I can't, like, manually mute it in OBS. I have to go into the capture and click on the mute button up here. Which is a pain. But, gotta do what you gotta do. which is what we're gonna do for today's stream, because welcome, we are entering the climax of Witch on the Holy Night. That's what's on the docket for today. So, that said, let me mute that. I forgot to do that last stream, but I'm gonna go ahead and pin this. Go ahead and pin. Why won't it let me pin the fucking message? Cease. Stop this. I have to go. I have to fucking open Twitch on my browser. Pain in my ass. Pin. There. That's what I was trying to do. I'm casting lightning magic and fishing lines at the same time. Fuck yeah. That's what we like to see. Okay. Message pinned in chat. Launching the game. Fishing mini game locked and loaded. We are fucking gaming. You can't see it. Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on. I just said you get no refunds for that. I just told you. Oh, the top hat not work? Hold on. That one's broken. Fuck. Oh god, everything's scuffed. Hold on. I can only do one thing at a time. Alright, there's that. Now there's this. I'm glad I put the fishing mini game in, because now you guys have something to do while I'm scuffed the fuck out over here. No, not that one. The fucking, this one. That should be functional. I don't know why it's not. Yeah, there you go. I don't know why that didn't, I don't know why that didn't work. But now I've got a top hat. Yeah, I forgot that I added that. I've got, you can add and remove stuff from my model as well. Yeah. Enjoy that shit. Okay. I can't believe you redeemed a fucking sound alert after I told you specifically that sound alerts are muted. Yeah, you deserve what you got. You deserve minus 10 channel points for that. So I should have a, top hat, party hat, and monocle. I think I can wear both hats at the same time, so there's that. But have fun. I'm gonna be reading. Happy fishing. This is what Grim has saved all of his fucking points for. I only see top hat. Well, top hat's the only one that's on. Hold on. Oh, you mean you only see top hat in the menu? Hold on. Wait a minute. I should be able to add it if it's not there. Manage rewards. Top hat. Oh, party hat and is disabled. Monocle. Okay, there you go. You should be able to see them now. Maybe a refresh if you can't. Or give it a second. But yeah. I've got the top hat. See them now? Excellent. So now you can customize me. You can put on a hat, put on a different hat, put on a monocle. Mayhap other things in the future, but that's kind of all that I've got for right now. I don't know how you even saw Top Hat. Apparently all you see is fish. Where's the dunce hat? Alright, well, I guess I'll just play the game now. I don't deserve that. I don't deserve that for nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, hi. Welcome to the climactic chat, the first of 2 climactic chapters. Witch on the Holy Night. Chapter 10. Witch on the Holy Night. Or Chapter 11, I don't remember. I think it's 11. I think it's 11. I'm going to go into debt for fishing. Lucky you, you can't go into debt with channel points. You just have to sit here and wait to generate more. Side note, tier 3 subs get an income multiplier. Tier 2 and tier 3 subs get a channel point income multiplier. Did you know that? Because well, actually I did know that. Otherwise I wouldn't have told you just now. Anyway, that's enough rambling. Witch on the Holy Night, Part 1. Aoko had not hung up, but the line remained silent. Alice set down the receiver, quickly put on her mantle, and made for the entrance, moving her injured body by sheer willpower alone. Along the way, she paused, turned to Sojiro, and looked directly at him. Aoka's in trouble, isn't she? Alice hesitated for a moment, before pushing aside her anxiety and grabbing his hand. Shizuki, come with me. Wait, where are we going? To Aida Church. We need to ask Father Eri for help. We're going to the church? In a Type Moon novel? Uh-oh. Aida Church. That's next to the hospital, isn't it? Good, you know it. That'll save me time explaining. Alice left the mansion and made her way down the tree-lined path. She was clearly determined, but the look in her eyes betrayed her pain. Alice, wait, shouldn't we call ahead? Sojiro asked Alice, whose grip on his hand was light but unyielding. The church already knows. And if you're talking about the hospital, no need. It's quicker for us to go and help than call for a car. They can't fly. What does she mean by that? Alice had thought of everything. She turned to the mansion and lightly snapped her fingers. In response, a window opened and countless starlings took flight. Group 1, search for the enemy. Groups 2 and 3, proceed to the scene and administer first aid. Haste is paramount. If Aoko is still alive, do not let her heart stop. Alice commanded the birds firmly. Shizuki, fetch Aoko's bicycle from the rear courtyard. Sojiro let slip his discomfort at the thought of that thing. The custom-made red bicycle. When he was cleaning the incinerator, Aoko had verbally assaulted him for nearly scratching it. Okay, but what's the plan? You're much safer at the church than here, and I need to hurry. Can you take us both? Can you take us both, Shizuki? While Sojiro had seen people riding tandem and was confident he could imitate them, he still wasn't quite certain he could trust a bicycle with his life. Moreover, its frame was so light, he was unsure it could support both their weights. Can you do the can? Can you can the can? Can you can a can? Can you? Well? Wait, you mean you want to ride on the back? If it's too much, then I don't need your help. Alice turned away as if to snub him, then began walking. Unfortunately for Sojiro, he was now on her bad side. Hey, don't get me wrong. It's just that I never expected you to ask me to do something like that. I can only do one thing, starts fishing. Ignoring his pleas, she continued briskly towards the woods. There was no way she was going to ride the bike now. Sensing her stubborn streak, he desperately called out to her. I take it back, I'm sorry. I'll go get it right now. You can take your anger out on me later. Women want fish, me fear me. Don't. You can't do that to me. Fucking me fear me. What the fuck? You can't hit me for that. You can't hit me with that. I wasn't ready. It's like Fire Emblem Three Houses all over again. Just fishing. I take it back, I'm sorry. I'll go get it right now. You can take your anger out on me later. Alice stopped. As soon as he saw her stop, he hurried to the rear courtyard. Grabbed the key from where it was hanging, and used it to unlock Aoko's bicycle. By the time Sojiro brought it back to the front of the mansion, Alice was continuing toward the forest. I think I finally have you figured out, Alice. Muttering to himself, he straddled the bike. He rested his foot on a pedal. It felt light but sturdy. Confident the bike could support his weight and Alice's, he began pedaling. Alice! She turned as he called out to her, before shooting him a piercing glare. Come on, hop on the back. No cushion though, so it won't be a comfy ride. Let me know if it's too uncomfortable. I'll be fine. Worry about yourself. He hit the nail on the head. Alice definitely held a grudge over the smallest things. If that's the issue, then there is no issue. I'm happy to give you a ride. We're going to Ida Church, right? Unabashed and undaunted, he plowed on. His tone seemed to ease Alice's mood. She nodded calmly and took a seat on the luggage rack above the rear tire. I'm going to hold on to you, okay? You don't mind me touching you, do you? Why would I? I'm tougher than I look. That's another grammatical error. Because the correct response would be, why would I? Why would I mind? I do not mind. Alice silently wrapped her arms around Sojiro. Once she had held on tightly enough, he gripped the handlebars. Good, he said quietly. What's good? Sojiro turned to her, an ambiguous expression on his face, and then began pedaling vigorously. He let go of the brakes, and the bicycle hurtled down Shiro Inazuka's steep incline. Surprised by the sudden speed, Alice gasped, and clutched Sojiro tighter. She almost protested, but stopped when she saw the serious expression on Sojiro's face. Instead, she decided to tighten her grip. Under the night sky, a young girl had put her faith in a young boy. Faster than a roller coaster, the bicycle hurtled toward Misaki Station. Around the station, there was no sight of cars or people. While the town slept under its snowy blanket, two people were racing like the wind. While he pedaled, the boy said, "Riding tandem is way easier than I thought." But he was alone in his relief. It was their first bicycle ride together, and they spent it speeding down an empty highway. The boy's words were lost to the howling wind, fortunately. Those bike brakes sounded like a car. Holy shit. Squealing tires. In spite of the late hour, there were still lights on in the church. Originally, the only light at this time of night came from the entrance to the sleepless hospital, ever vigilant and ready to receive patients. However, this was a quiet town with little nightlife. The hospital saw perhaps one emergency patient per night, however, and it was not equipped to handle tonight's sole patient. It was a little before 1 o'clock in the morning. Leaving the bicycle outside, the two headed into the church. With its snow-covered roof, the church looked like it was wearing a white hat that lit up the darkness. In the entrance stood a tall shadow. Miss Kuonji. The man's voice was placid. Dressed in a long coat, he had been waiting for Alice. Father Eiri, is Aoko? Yuika is tending to her now. By the time I got to the scene, there were others already. I'd like to notify her family. Aoko wouldn't want that. Besides, I believe they're trapped in the castle. Toko seems to have tied down their grandfather, too. The two exchanged pleasantries. Sojiro did not move from the foot of the stairs. Oh, and who's this? Though the father seemed calm, his words had an edge to them. As if to protect Sojiro from his gaze, Alice stepped between them. This is Aoko's familiar, though their contract hasn't been fulfilled yet. Familiar? Sojiro was about to complain, but Alice shot him a fiery glare. That all but said, "Just shut up and play along." I see. This is the first I've heard of it, but I'll let it slide. I mean, you are both in conflict with an outside mage, after all. That should take priority. Alice nodded in thanks. I'll be going now. Let him enter too. He is most welcome. I will begin preparations for meditation. If a change of administrators is imminent, I have to prepare documents for both parties. I'm leaving things to Ritsuka in my absence, so send any questions her way. Ritsuka? Who? That's the name of the female protag, or that's the name of the male protag in Fate Grand Order. Ritsuka. As if passing the baton, Father Eiri exited the church. Sojiro took 2 full steps back to give him a wide berth. The priest had a dignified air about him. To put it bluntly, he was strikingly beautiful. Straight nose, glistening lips. Not a single imperfection on his mildly effeminate face. But that only went as far as his appearance. His manner lacked any hint of softness or grace. Just by looking at him, you could tell he was dependable, like tempered steel, despite being somewhat unapproachable. The priest disappeared silently into the night, the darkness of his coat overpowering the moonlight. In awe, Sojiro watched him leave. He's like some kind of sage from the folktales. In his own way, Sojiro was expressing affection. For some reason, Father Eiri's distant tone made him feel nostalgic. Alice gave Sojiro a deathly stare. Don't let your guard down. He's with the church. His job is to monitor us, but this time we had to ask for his help. If it were allowed, I'd make him disappear off the face of the earth. Her curse ringing in the air, Alice placed her hand on the doors to the chapel. Excuse me. They were twice her height, and who knows how heavy. It did not look like she could open them anytime soon. Sojiro climbed the stairs 3 at a time and helped Alice push the towering doors inward. The dim light of the chapel brought with it the familiar scent of burning oil. The ecclesiastical interior was breathtaking. The tall ceiling, the stained glass windows on every wall. It all felt intended to illustrate the presence of the Holy Spirit within those chambers. Like the foyer in the Kuonji estate, there was not a single heater. The bitter cold made the chapel feel more severe. Annie, over here. The gentle voice echoed through the chapel, incongruous to its surroundings. It was the voice of a woman. Ritsuka, is that you? Alice made her way past the rows of pews toward the front altar. Sojiro closed the large doors and hurried after her. You got here fast. I was just thinking of coming to see you. I had another pair of legs. Legs? Oh, you mean him? Sojiro showed himself, surprising the woman. They stared intently at each other, wondering what the other was doing here. You two know each other? Yes, although I didn't expect to see him here. Sojiro, when you said you'd moved, you meant you were staying at Ali's? Sojiro nodded. Alice turned visibly sour at this unexpected development. Is she his former landlord? That's really funny. What are you talking about, Ritsuka? How do you know each other? Well, he always gave me a discount at the fish market. Helped me with my bags, drank tea with me. He's like every housewife's best friend. That doesn't make any sense. You're not married, Ritsuka. Needless to say, Sojiro was also not a housewife's best friend, and all that suggested, but there were more urgent matters at hand. Ouch. You had to go there, huh? I can't slip anything by you, can I, Allie? Well, what do you expect? I never know when you're being serious, so I have to question every weird thing you say. Just look at us. We must have been separated at birth. Okay, I'll tell you the truth. I know him from the neighborhood association. He's not a spy or anything. Not that he could be. I mean, you know, just look at him. Is this true? Alice stared straight at Sojuro, to let him know she was mad at him for hiding this from her. Yes, I know her from my part-time job at the fish market. She was nice to me, so I gave her a free sardine to persuade her to come back. A sardine? Oh, excuse me. Exactly. Everybody who shops downtown knows Sojuro. If it bothers you so much, Allie, go see for yourself. He's the secret stud of the shopping district. Secret stud? She means unpopular, not that my prices are easy to hammer down like some nail on the wall. His apparent popularity would have to be questioned another time. Collecting herself, Alice focused on the door in the recesses of the church. I don't know what's going on with you, Ritsuka, but he's with Aoko now. That explanation will have to wait. It all makes sense now. So much to say in so little time. But we can get to that later. Fine. For you, Allie, I'll make an exception and offer him our protection. Alice nodded and began walking to the door. Stay, Sojuro. As Sojuro was about to follow Alice, Ritsuka stepped in his way. You need to stay here. Leave this to the girls. She asserted bluntly. Meanwhile, Alice had reached the door and entered further into the chapel. But why? It's for your own good. No normal person should see Aoko in the state she's in. It'll be too much for you. Unless, of course, you're so worried about her you don't care about that. Sojuro was not able to give an immediate answer. It had finally hit him just how bad a state Aoko must be in. Based on Alice's condition when he found her, he intuited that Aoko's injuries might be even worse. He tried to imagine her expression in that state, but could not. I never worry about Aozaki. Literally. He had never been worried about her before. Not truly. I can't stop you, can I? No. He answered her reflexively. Ritsuka sighed at the boy's naivete, but nonetheless stepped aside. Go on, then. Through the door Alice used, fourth room in. Things are critical right now, so stay out of Yui's way. Sojuro thanked her and went after Alice, leaving Ritsuka Suse, the self-proclaimed everybody's friendly neighbor, alone. Yuika will probably stop him, but someone's got to be in Sojuro's corner. I have a soft spot for broken boys. The bitch really said I can fix him. I know I'm playing rough with him, but it's for his own good. I say let him learn to regret. Damn. Excuse me. She spoke with force, but her words echoed aimlessly around the chapel. With a sigh, she shrugged her shoulders and made the sign of the cross in a rather unpious manner. The sound of Sojiro's footsteps grew fainter. His lack of hesitation had left a pain in her heart. And not because he did not look back at her, but because he was choosing to ignore the primal fear inside him. An elderly man once said, "An animal's death and a human's are two different things. You may think they're the same, but they differ to their core. Our heads have known the difference since the dawn of man. An animal's corpse, be it a pig's or a deer's, is different. If the swing of an axe or a machete is violent, then so must a human corpse be. Therefore, before you see one with your own eyes, you should at least understand it with your ears. Listen closely, Sojiro. When a person dies, blood flows like a crimson river. It's too much to bear." Perhaps because he was not used to the stone path beneath his feet, Sojiro's mind wandered back into the words he'd heard as a child. The instant he opened the door, there was a palpable change in the air. The room was small, with only a simple bed and a small wooden dresser. And there on the bed was lying on her side. Tending to her was the woman he'd just seen in the chapel, Ritsuka. No, she only looked a lot like her. Her eyes were closed and her garments covered in blood. He had met her maybe once before. Yuika Suse, a nun at the church. She was doing something to... Yuika held a pair of scissors and some thread. Her hands moved delicately, yet quickly, as though playing an organ. Her movements were precise, as if flawlessly reading sheet music. One by one, the supply of bandages diminished. Bandages recently applied to the wounds were quickly replaced with fresh ones. Gauze was placed everywhere to try and cope with the amount of blood. Once white cloth was now dyed red and discarded. The dressings scattered around the floor resembled roses. In a wilted rose garden, the nun played her organ. The scene looked unlike any reality Sojiro knew. It was clear why the air had changed. There was a savage odor in the room. Even though he was experiencing it for the first time, he knew what it was. The smell burned his lungs. He could not bring himself to look at the bed. Fighting his feelings, he refused to move there. He noticed Alice next to the bed. Ever expressionless, she looked like a statue next to a grave. Except she was trembling ever so slightly. It could have been from fear, anxiety, rage, or a combination of the three. Before her lay a life on the verge of death. But whose life? It was difficult to tell with only a glance. Some sort of puppet covered in bandages, perhaps. Her hair should be beautiful, but it fell flat, disheveled, despite her short breaths. Her chest convulsed. Up, down, up, down. Facetious though the thought was, Sojiro recalled the rodeo machine on the roof of the department store. Ah, the painkillers and anesthesia could not have been working. New bandages were soaked crimson in seconds. Her fingernails bit into the sheets. Her face twisted in agony. Anesthesia would not be enough, so if she was still alive, she must be conscious too. It worried him that no one seemed concerned about this. In this state, she would surely lose her mind before her life. In short, the boy never wanted to see anything like this ever again. Bed sheets should be white, not red. With every blink, the color deepened. Sojiro was finally forced to accept that the bleeding mess in the center of it was her. He felt the blood surge in his veins. The squeaking of the bed, the snip of the scissors, the gasps of agony, it all faded. All he could hear was his own pounding heartbeat. The smell of the blood she choked up sent a wave of nausea through him. His knees abandoned him. And it was perfectly understandable. His brain had to shut his consciousness off to protect itself. The mind could only take so much reality. He would give anything to never see something like that again. Silly me. You know everything, don't you, Aoko? Not just about you. But what happens after this, too? What survives, what won't? You can see it all. And through it all, you never lose sight of who you are. You're so strong. And on she went. I kind of liked her smile, but she just had to go and say the one thing I wish she hadn't. The last day of middle school seems so long ago. As the ephemeral cherry blossom petals danced around, my little dream was crushed. I'd never really considered myself strong. At least until I began remembering those words from time to time. I thought you, of all people, would understand, Aozaki. I mean, of course you do. That's what makes you strong. And lately, an idiot who said things like that had appeared in my life. I knew I always judged people more harshly than those around me, but to have someone I'd only known for a few days point that out was like a stab in the chest. Not only that, the words sounded so similar, they made me so angry I couldn't see straight. Only him and one other person have ever said anything like that to me. Then again, I suppose my sister said the same without actually saying it. You're different from us. But me being me, I took it as a curse rather than a compliment. My actions, my choices, my morals. All the good and bad I've done. When all's said and done, am I really any better than everyone else? Of course I am. I'll never sacrifice myself for those around me. They just had to call me strong, true to myself in spite of how alone, stubborn, and ridiculous I know I can be. When I was younger, it only confused me. I mean, I don't know any other way. I am who I am. The frustrating fact is, I simply don't have the courage to give up. So why? Why do I get treated special for doing what comes naturally? The sunlight stirred her. Maybe it was the pain from having her whole body held together by arcane threads. But Aoko felt like she'd had a silly dream. She gulped air through her painful, parched throat. Gray rays of light shone through a small window, bringing her back to reality. I feel itchy. Unable to bear it, Aoko attempted to roll over. Except she could only move her right arm. She tried lifting her arm, but couldn't feel anything past her elbow. Once she stopped concentrating on her bandaged arm, it fell to the bed like a stone. Okay. Aoko took in her surroundings, moving only her eyes. Evidently, she had been asleep in this bed. Unable to feel certain parts of her body, she felt like a robot. The room was tiny and undecorated. It was like an apartment without a tenant. Judging by the good repair, she guessed that she was in Ida Church. Outside, it seemed closer to noon than morning. Clouds filled the sky as usual, dulling the sun's rays. Idly, she thought that it could be enough to melt the snow outside. And then finally, she noticed the figure of a girl. Next to her bed, Alice Kuonji was sitting in a chair, unmoving. Good morning, Alice. She called out to her, all too casually. It was more difficult to talk than she thought. Alice was her typical stoic self, although Aoko did notice a glimpse of concern in her eyes. You haven't slept, Alice. I can tell from your poor complexion. I tried, but I can't until the substance Toko made me swallow leaves my system. I suppose my lukewarm discomfort is a fart in the windstorm compared to what you're going through. Alice's uncharacteristically vulgar comment helped Aoko feel a little more like her usual self. She felt reassured having a comrade-in-arms by her side instead of a concerned neighbor. So, she got you too. I can guess how it went, but fill me in on the details. Aoko remained horizontal as she spoke with a cool tone. Despite Aoko's condition, Alice granted her request. After all, they had known each other for 2 years. Alice knew... Excuse me. Alice knew exactly the kind of anesthesia Aoko Aozaki needed right now. Alice Kuonji's battle with Toko Aozaki ended in the former's victory. The Thames Troll was a special familiar, even among fairy tale monsters. While lacking the incredible reality-warping abilities of Flat Snark, its sheer mass, durability, and strength were second to none. Toko's rune magecraft was rendered completely ineffective by its stone armor. In all fairness to Toko, most mages would not stand a chance against the Bridge Giant. The reason lay in the mystic's body. As a general law of magecraft, a mystic will lose to a stronger, older mystic. The history of the Bridge Giant dated back well over 1,000 years. Its origins could be traced to the 1st century, when Britannia was conquered by the Romans. Conversely, despite having roots dating back to the Age of Gods, runes had unfortunately been lost to time. Rune magecraft was little more than an attempt to revive and use a dead art. However, monsters from fairy tales like the troll were different. They lived on in the hands of Alice Kuonji. The magical world was vast, but one could probably count on one hand the number of magecraft that still functioned after being chanted into existence a millennia ago, as Alice's ploys did. In contrast, Toko the rune user was only about 2 decades old. Carving a rune took only a moment. There was no way a quick spell could defeat the personification of London Bridge in Alice's homeland. That being said, a beast had appeared that surpassed even those from fairy tales. Beowulf, the Golden Beast. It seemed absurd to compare a small and relatively powerless wolf to a towering stone giant. The Thames Troll's attacks were earthquaking. A direct hit from its 50-ton strikes would smash anything to paste, while a glancing blow would still create mincemeat. And yet, the beast had attacked head-on and torn right through it. The wolf's fur bristled, and the creature metamorphosed like liquid. It was a breathtaking display. The wolf howled at the moon as if in joy, and streaked forth like a bolt of golden light. In an instant, the duel was decided. The radiant spear of a wolf flew straight through the giant's chest and sank its teeth into its heart. The troll exploded. Chunks of stony muscle rained down. Luminous fur scattered in the wind. Two mystics dispersed without a trace and returned whence they came. The curtain fell on a battle straight out of mythology. There among the rubble of the fairy tale monster was the Golden Wolf, standing like a flame. Thank you for allowing me to indulge myself for a minute. What a... Can I get this hung up? Can I get this framed? That's awesome. What came after could barely be described as a battle. It was more like the slaughter of defeated pawns. The wolf leapt on Alice, disemboweling her with ease. Its claws cut through the protective wards on Alice's coat like a hot knife through butter. The Golden Wolf. This wolf, which understood human speech, could only be the magical creature known as the werewolf. Werewolves were the forest people of Western Europe, with origins far more ancient than the fabricated vampire legends of the continent. However, none were known to have golden coats. It was said that the most elite werewolf bloodlines boasted silver fur. Silver werewolves were pack leaders, and werewolves of that caliber were considered phantasmal rather than merely magical creatures. But a golden werewolf was superior even to that, and so transcended human knowledge. Alice Kuonji's ploys were among the ultimate mystics to have been created by humankind. Therefore, the Golden Wolf could only have been a mystic born of the planet. When a celestial body has been active for millions, even billions of years, occasionally a miraculous droplet of creation spills over into our current world. This mystic had to be over 3,000 years old. A human mage. No, any mage living in the current magical paradigm would be helpless against the Golden Wolf. Not even in theory would they stand a chance of defeating it. Which meant that this werewolf was Aoko and Alice's worst nightmare. I see. If it was too much even for you, Alice, I never would have stood a chance. Never would have stood a chance, is what I meant to say. That means non-magical attacks should work on it, right? Thames is powered by magical energy, but isn't its punch just raw force? One hit and it's game over. It's not that simple, unfortunately. His base form was a wolf, but he can transform to adapt to the situation. He took Thames's punch by turning into a giant ape-like thing. Even if we used a machine gun or a rocket launcher, he could probably transform into something to defend himself. So he can turn into any living creature. What about his mass? Can't change that, can he? Why do you have to be well over 6 feet tall on top of all his other strengths? Random question, but what if he could turn into a sea creature? That'd be just awful. Aoko narrowed her eyes as she bemoaned the creature's existence. The conversation appeared to have revived her fighting spirit. Once again, her eyes were focused and her thoughts clear. Aoko was back to her usual self. So what happens next? Were you able to escape? No. The wolf had its way with me next. Alice explained how the wolf had pinned her to the ground. Incidentally, she kept the part about Sojiro rather short. Alice herself was not entirely sure why she felt it necessary to leave most of that information out. So Toko's came straight to me after fighting you. That was your plan, sis. You wanted to end this all yesterday. It was my mistake for forgetting. We always did have a habit of having the same thought at the same time. Once you reveal your hand to the enemy, you have to take them out. She waited until she was down to the last 2 sigils to reveal herself and divide our strength. I knew she'd do something like that, but I never imagined she'd have a freaking werewolf with her. Aoko let out a heavy sigh. Alice nodded slightly in agreement. Anyway, I can't believe Sojiro came to her rescue. I know I should be grateful, but he's such an idiot. If I was in Toko's shoes, I'd be tying up any loose ends. After dealing with us, wiping him out should have been a piece of cake. Shizuki is under this church's protection now. Aoko's eyes widened. What? Am I hearing things? You actually went out of your way to protect him? I was thinking of
放っ
you.
ておいたら青子が
We
怒る
wouldn't
と
we wouldn't want you getting angry now, would we? Alice responded with her eyes closed. Aoko frowned in silent indignation, as if she wanted to protest where Alice got that idea from.
まあいいけど
Well, whatever.
それじゃあ今ここにいる
He's
ん
here
だ
now, I assume. But where?
姿が見えないけどどうしたの
Still unable to move her neck, she looked around as best she could. I'm sorry, I'm yawning so much. This tends to happen to me during reading streams. I'm running around a lot during the day when I'm sitting here casually narrating, my body thinks it's nap time.
彼なら気分を悪くして倒れたわ
He collapsed, so he's resting in Father Aries' bedroom.
借りているけど
Aoko furrowed her brow at collapsed. Sure, he was under the church's protection, but had Toko set the wheels in motion for his death?
何があったの
What exactly happened to him? Alice paused for a moment before carefully answering the question.
それが
Well,
彼
when he saw you, he vomited. She had decided to be blunt. Aoko was taken aback. For several seconds, dim sunlight leaked through the window. Once she had found her voice again, she muttered.
いいけど
Whatever.
ひどい侮辱よね
That's kind of rude, though. Perhaps amused, or perhaps exhausted from staying up all night, Alice cracked a tiny giggle.
何よそんなにおかしいアリス
What's so funny?
さあ
Oh,
どう
nothing.
かしらね
Shizuki had his reasons, I'm sure.
しずきくんにも言い分
You
は
were
あ
in
る
a
でしょ
bad state, Aoko.
今のあなたとても見られたものじゃないわ
Aoko appraised her physical state. She was dressed in a hospital gown. Bandages covered the majority of her body. Her right leg was in a plaster cast. Since she could move her right arm, she brought her bandaged fingers up to her throat.
そっか
Oh yeah, I remember now.
あの
That
ガ
little
キ
shit bit my
な
neck.
ぜ私の首元に噛みついたんだっけすごかったわよ
It was crazy,
首が噛み
being
砕かれ
torn
る
to pieces like that.
ゴキンって音が
I even
頭
heard
の
my
中に
neck
響いて
snapping.
気持ち悪いったらな
Gross
かっ
doesn't
た
do the feeling justice.
ち
Damn
あそ
it.
こから好き勝手
Played
やられ
with
た
me
もん
like
だ
some
から
kind of chew
つい
toy.
忘れてた
I almost wish I could forget. Aoko sounded upbeat, but the look in her eyes was anything but. She had been torn to pieces, but her life had been mercifully spared. At least she hadn't been dismembered. She had been bitten, beaten, and her bones broken. Magic crests containing the Aozaki's secret arts decorated her body. Even if her spine was broken, as long as her body was alive, the crests would piece it back together. Despite the crests easing the pain a little, she still hurt enough to want to kill that wolf 100 times over.
視点は全部壊された
If all sigils have been broken,
これで三崎市の
Misaki
連絡が
City's
フリ
ley
ーだっ
lines
て
are
ね
wide open.
全容を把
We
握してる
thought
の
we
は
had
うち
the
らだけ
edge
の
of
特
having
権
the,
だったけ
the
ど
big picture of the area,
トーコは昔から知って
but
る
if,
以上
if Toko's
解
known
析
for a
の手間
while,
もいらな
then
い
she's a step ahead of us.
真剣な話
Let's be
所有
real.
権の書き換えまで何
How
時間
long
か
do you
かる
think it'll take her to transfer Dominion rights?
トーコさんなら
For Toko, it won't even take her 2 days.
視点の修
She
復
has
は
no
特殊な
choice
もの
but
に
to wait for the
任
land
せるしかない
itself to restore the sigils.
視点のプロテクト
By
が
the
治
time
る
the
頃
defenses are in working order again, this town will be as good as hers.
明日の夜明けとともに
So
破
come
産する
tomorrow
我が身とは
morning,
ね
I may lose everything.
それで
What about you,
アリス
Alice?
はどうなの
Any fight left in you?
思考魔術だけ
I
なら
can manage a little bit of mental magecraft.
あとは
After that,
小
I'd
道
be
具に頼
relying
る
on
ことになる
trinkets.
でしょうね。ああ、お話になら
That
ない
won't cut it.
か。
Aoko went silent again, staring straight at the ceiling. Alice knew all too well what that look meant.
それでもやるんでしょ。
You're still planning on fighting, aren't you, Aoko?
まあね。
Can you blame me?
私
It's
諦
not
める
like
の
I
ってで
can
き
give
ないから。
up.
で、
What
そう
about
いう
you?
アリスはどうなのよ。私は
Once something is mine,
一度
it
自分
stays
のもの
mine.
になったものは決して人には渡さない。
Aoko muttered an agreement to Alice's terse response. Alice's intense attachment to her possessions was enough to make even Aoko shiver. Once something is mine, it stays mine. To take it a step further, betrayal was an unforgivable sin. This personal motto was further proof of her uncompromising nature.
オッケー、決まりね。
Okay, that settles it then.
じゃあ、
I'm going to get some rest. Come hell or high water, I'll be ready by
なんとか
tonight.
動けるようにするから。
If the nun who stitched her back together had heard that, she would have fainted. Aoko could barely even eat in her current condition. Even so, Alice nodded and stood up. As Aoko's partner, she knew that once her mind was made up, she had to trust her. Silently, the girl in black began to take her leave. Oh. She stopped in front of the door, her hand to her mouth.
アリス？
Alice? Aoko was curious, suspecting that Alice had something silly to say again. Quite the contrary. Instead of blushing, Alice furrowed her brow, like she was thinking over a difficult riddle.
アリス？
Alice? Hello? Aoko called out, but Alice remained with her back to her roommate.
なんで？
How did you make it to me in time? She spoke as if the words had accidentally burst out from her thoughts. Alice's question was about something Aoko could not possibly have guessed.
あの時もそう。
It happened before, too,
私たち
even though we took the first train back. She carried on, mumbling at the door. Unable to find an answer, Alice gloomily put her hand on the doorknob.
言いたくないなら別にいいけど
If you don't want to say, it's fine.
何がどうしたって
But if
い
you
うのよ
do,
ア
then
リス。
spit it out already. Alice did not respond. She opened the door to leave the room and left a few words hanging in the air.
どうでもいいことだけど
It might be nothing.
ゆいかさんには
By the way,
しずきくんは見えなかっ
Yuika
たそう
said she couldn't see Shizuki. The door closed with a thud.
ふーん、
Huh.
そりゃまた珍しい。
That doesn't happen every day. Aoko mumbled to herself from her bed, seeming slightly happier. Blind since birth, Yuika Suse saw the world through her other senses. She was especially sensitive to enemies or those who bore ill will, and typically viewed almost everyone as a threat. Presumably because that was the easiest thing to pick up on. So when she said she couldn't see Sojiro, that meant he was completely harmless. And then, that harmless individual decided to pay the small sick room a visit. Sojiro looked like a stiff breeze could knock him over. It made Aoko wonder who the real patient was.
何しに来たの?
What do you want? Though Aoko could barely move, she was still able to give him the cold shoulder. His expression gaunt, Sojiro grunted something or other before beginning to speak more coherently. Alice was sleeping in the guest room, and I was in the chapel. People started coming in, so I came here. Must be time to worship. It's Christmas. It was indeed Christmas, but regular Mass was on Christmas Eve. The ones gathering in the chapel must have been truly devout followers. Tourists were rare in Misaki, after all. So much so that almost no one visited this area this time of year. The worshippers must have been locals. So, why do you care? There might be someone there you know. Aoko was as distant as ever. She clearly had not forgotten the fact that he had vomited when he saw her, and a hint of spite leaked into her voice. Then again, it's not that. I just thought it might be a good chance to ask you some things. Can we talk for a bit? Since Aoko was always in a bad mood, Sojiro did not pick up on anything out of the ordinary. She wanted to tell him to go drink some water because he looked ready to collapse, but he didn't seem aware of his own condition. And to be fair to him, Alice did say Aoko was in bad shape. Given how unaccustomed to blood Sojiro was, it was no wonder he had fainted. Oh, of course. You're probably still too injured to talk. Sorry, I'll come back later. Sojiro seemed to have misunderstood Aoko being deep in thought as not having enough stamina to speak. Naturally, this did not sit well with Aoko. Hold it right there. If you came to talk, I can talk just fine. I've been cooped up in here, so I could use the distraction. Okay, so you're not the best distraction, but beggars can't be choosers. Sojiro sensed this was going to be rough, but took a seat on the chair next to the bed. So, what do you want to ask me? Aoko spoke energetically in an attempt to distract from her weakened appearance. Naturally, she knew she was fooling no one. You really are strong, Ozaki. I'm relieved to see that you're okay. Sojiro said, nodding in admiration. Aoko shot him an unimpressed look in response to the unwanted praise. Honestly, you have the worst timing. Nothing. Forget it. Just something from a dream. It's nothing to do with you. She glowered, remembering. Come to think of it, almost everyone in her dream was here in the church, turning her dour expression into an irritated one. Enough about that. You said you had questions, so out with them. Alright. Can you tell me what's going on? I mean, with Toko, now that I'm involved and all. Sojiro spoke calmly, making Aoko wonder if he really understood the gravity of his situation. He was Toko's enemy now. He was defenseless and needed protection. Neither Aoko nor Alice could help him, and the church could withdraw their sanctuary at any moment. He had picked a side, and that had turned him from innocent bystander into target. The answer he sought was as simple as that. He knew the facts. He was not a mage, and was therefore powerless. I guess you did help Alice. Aoko did owe him for that. To say thanks, she decided to at least give him the whole story up until now.
よし、今までの経緯も含めて
I'll quickly walk
軽く
you
説
through
明してみ
everything.
ましょうか。私も何か
You
得る
know,
ものがあ
maybe
るかも
even
しれ
I'll
ない
get
し。
something out of it. Aoko composed herself before beginning her explanation. The battle began at the end of November. A lot had happened since then, including meeting Sojuro.
事の起こりは1ヶ月
It
前。
all started a month ago.
三崎市に張られた
The
結界
edge
の
of the
端っこ
bounded
が
field around
何
Misaki
者かに
City
消
was
された
taken
のが
down.
発端だった。私が後継
The
ぎになっ
fifth
て
time since I
大人に
became successor.
三崎市を狙う敵が
Misaki
登場。
City was officially under attack.
今回の敵は私たちと
This time,
直接
instead of
戦わず
attacking us directly,
まず土地を奪
the
うと
enemy
ころから
started
始めた。
by taking the land.
今までのやつは私たちを
Everyone that had come
半人前と
before
見てい
her
た
had been
か
a
ら
bunch of amateurs all full of themselves, attacking us head on.
勝手にアリス
They
の
all
冒
ended
険
up
の
as
餌食にな
kibble
ったん
for
だ。
Alice's watchdog.
まあそれはどうでもいいとして。町の結界には2
Anyway,
種類あって
two types of bounded fields surround this area.
土地の
One
力を
detects
有効利用す
intruders,
るものが
one siphons energy from the land.
敵が壊したのは
The
土地の
enemy
結界
attacked
の
the
方だ。
latter.
これ
If the
が
entire
全部壊
field
され
is
る。
destroyed, then Alice and I effectively lose our ownership of this land.
土地のないはぐれ魔術師
Without
と同じ
land,
にな
we
っちゃう
become
ね。
no different than rogue mages.
もちろん
Of course, we had another field set up to detect intruders, but it didn't do what it
こっ
was
ちには
supposed
何
to.
の反応もなかった。ま、
And now we know why.
今回の敵は
The enemy was my
私の
sister,
兄
Toko
貴青崎
Aozaki.
その人だったんだから。青崎の結界は
Aozaki bounded fields aren't going to recognize a fellow Aozaki as a threat.
あるいは
Alternatively,
姉貴は結界の
she may have just known about a blind
構造
spot
の
and
仕掛
slipped
けを
in
ついた
that
の
way.
かもしれない。もともとうちの後継
As
者
the
の
original
人たち
successor, it's only natural she'd have that knowledge to begin with.
そうして
So,
姉
since
貴
she
は
was
私たちに
invisible
見
to
つか
us,
ることなく
she had
好
free
き勝手
reign
に
to
結
break
界の視点
bounded
を
field
壊し始
sigils.
めた。時間をかけてゆっくり
She
壊して
deliberately
いった
attacked
の
them
は
slowly, one by
外から
one,
やって
to
き
make
た
us
部外
think
者
it
を
was an
演じていた
outsider.
からでしょうね。さすがに連続して
If she'd
壊され
broken
れ
them
ば
all at once, I'd
こっちも
suspect it
身内
was
の
one of my
犯行だと
relatives,
疑うし。
such as someone from the Asagi family.
親戚である浅木家とは仲悪いままだしさ。ま、
While we were
姉貴の
stupid
芝
to
居
fall
に
for her
騙され
little
た私
game,
たちが間抜けなんだ
it's
けど
also possible it took her a long time to destroy the
結界
field.
崩しは長丁場になるものなの。管理地の結界は
Our
強固
fields
に
are made
作ら
out
れ
of
ているよ
strong
ね。
stuff. They typically
普通は
last
半
for
年
6
単位
months.
での攻防になる。攻める側は
An enemy would need to figure out how many sigils supported the field, what elements comprised them, and the correct order to take them down.
退去の正しい順序はどれか。それらを地道に解き明かしていく。もちろん
All the while making sure the mage they belong to doesn't notice.
対して
If we
守
did
る側は
notice,
侵入者がいることに
we'd
気づく
locate
か
the
ら
intruder's base and
悪さを
eliminate
される
them
前に
before any
敵
damage
の
could be
拠点を
done.
見つけ出して外敵を排除する。こんな感じで
So, bounded fields are either broken during a drawn-out battle, or preemptively before it even starts.
大抵は攻める側が視点を壊すぞ
Usually, the enemy threatens to break the
土
sigils
地
to
の持
lure
ち
the
主を
landowner
顔
out.
疲弊させて
Then
から
things are settled there
魔
and
術師
then
同士
with a
の
duel
直接
between
対決で
mages.
決着がつくわ。なんで
Doing that eliminates the need to completely destroy a field.
管理地の持ち主を
It's much
始末
faster
した
to
方
take
が
out the
早いし
landowner and,
その後は
as long as they can
術式さえ
decipher the
回復しちゃえば
formula, seize the
土地を
fields
結界
and
ごと
land
に
afterward.
できる。わざわざ壊して作り直
If
す
you
よ
don't
り
destroy the fields, you
昔
don't
からあ
have
る
to
結界
remake
の
them.
方が土地に馴染んでいて強力だ
Besides,
し
ones that have been in the
責任
land
重
for
でしょ。
ones that have been in the land for years are stronger. That was how Aoko and Alice were duped. They never thought the enemy would waste the time and effort needed to break all sigils.
だから
That's
私と
why
アリ
Alice
ス
and
はとり
I
あえず
went on the
手に入れた。
defensive.
視点を探すた
We
めに
figured we
街
could
を調査
surprise
してい
the
る
enemy
敵
while
を
they
かき出
searched
せ
for the sigils,
これを
take them
片っ
out
端から
one by
倒
one.
そうって。でも
But
その
that's
うち
when
の
things
一つ
started
が
to
ケ
go
チにつ
south.
き始めだった。三崎町の公園で
When a
ヤマハ
certain
をぶち抜
busybody
けて
saw
いた時
something he shouldn't have
ど
at
う
the
でもい
local
い第
park.
三者が覗き見してやがったのよ。
Indeed. It was the ultimate taboo in the world of magecraft. The existence of mages must never be revealed to outsiders.
その後のことはわかるで
And
し
you
ょ
know the rest, right? I had no choice but to leave our battle with the enemy to Alice and devote my time to searching for the eyewitness. And in case you haven't realized, I'm talking about you, so don't give me a soppy look like you're surprised. No sooner had Aoko said that, Sojiro gave her that exact look. Clearly he had been listening, but not necessarily understanding. Whatever. It's water under the bridge. Actually, thanks to your cluelessness, our secret is still safe. Anyway, the fact I went looking for you worked in the enemy's favor. Alice was their biggest threat. With us separated, she could take me out. That's when she sent her special puppet. Or so I thought at the time. It turns out she only sent it to mess with me. Otherwise, why use a puppet that looked just like me? Sojiro nodded, thinking back to the Aoko replica. Remember, I'd prefer it if you forgot about that incident altogether. After that, you can fill in the blanks. Alice and I turned our attention to fighting the enemy, spending most nights tracking her fruitlessly until the fight last night. That's the long and the short of it. She stared down at her body, as if recalling what had happened would help her accept her current state. Under the sheet, magical energy steadily flowed through her partially bandaged body. Okay, Ozaki. I think I'm all caught up. But what about you? Why are you in this state? Sojiro's specific concern was the reason Aoko was lying there. More than anything, he wanted to know what had happened to her the night before. Simple. We lost. What more is there to say? Judging by her tone, she would have raised both hands sarcastically in celebration if she could. You lost? Yep. It sucks, but there's no getting around it. The moment all 5 sigils were broken, it was over. The land rights are up in the air until tomorrow when Toko claims them. I'm trying to prevent that. Alice and I ended up like this. The tables have turned, so from here on, we'll be the challengers. We are the rogue mages. Which meant that Aoko, Alice, and Sojiro only had a few more days with which to utilize the church's services. Aida Church was not only an arm of the Mages Association, but also a branch of the Holy Church that monitored heresy. Aoko and Alice were owners of Misaki City's spiritual lands, but they belonged to neither of these organizations. The only reason the church helped them at all was because they were the land's administrators. Once those rights were lost, the church would have no reason to provide any further aid. Father Eiri is helping us because he's neutral in all this, but Yuika is a church executor. Once I'm healed, she'll kick me out. The church sees mages as their professional competition. And that stupid Ritsuka. Oh, she might help out if I cried. Sojiro understood little of what Aoko was talking about. I didn't mean that, Ozaki. I meant what actually happened last night. Sojiro pressed her. Aoko really wished he had not. You can't tell by looking? They wiped the floor with me. My throat was torn to pieces along with the rest of me. My right thigh was basically gone. Not the thighs, dude. If it wasn't for Alice's chocolate, I'd have bled to death. She knocked on the cast around her leg. Aoko spoke casually, but was trying to hide how much she wanted revenge for being humiliated. In contrast, Sojiro felt empty. The little color he had in his face began to fade. Was he repulsed by the terrible situation, or were his instincts telling him to flee? Regardless, he appeared very human.
なんでそこで固まる？
What the hell's wrong with you?
そっか。
Oh, wait. I know.
私を見て吐き
You
出
were
しちゃうぐ
stupid
らいが
enough
い
to
いもの
look
だ
at
っ
me
け
and throw up, am I
そう
right? Well, you can stop worrying. I'm in one piece now.
ユイカさんは治療
Yuika's a
専門
pro,
だし
and I'm still alive.
私だってただやられてただけ
Regeneration is a specialty of the Aozaki mages,
復
so
元
I'll
は
be
青
fine.
崎の得意分野だからあれくらい問題ないわ
She gave him a reassuring look, but his expression was unchanged. Aoko had expected him to worry, but this level of concern made it hard for even her to berate him. Excuse me. Feeling embarrassed, she started talking again.
けどねきっ
The
と
question is, how on earth did my sister manage to tame a golden wolf?
金の狼
I didn't even think they
伝説
existed.
の中にしかいないと思ってた神代の神秘で
He's
あ
a
る
relic
あいつ
from the
には
age of gods.
千年クラスの魔術じゃないと太刀打ちで
You
き
need
ない
Magecraft a millennium in the
かといって
making just to stand a
殴り合い
chance
でどう
against
に
them.
かできる相手じゃ
Never
ない
mind
し
trying to take him in a fist fight. As images of the night before entered Aoko's mind, she bit her lip in anguish.
金の
A golden
狼
wolf? Conversely, the bizarre phrase snapped Sojiro out of his state of shock.
そう
Yeah, a
黄金
golden
の
wolf.
人狼
A golden
金狼
werewolf,
って
to
言
be
った方がい
exact.
いのかな狼男
Then again,
って言っても
you've
わからない
probably never heard of a werewolf.
人
Think
間と
part
狼
human,
の
part
いいとこ
wolf,
取りみたいなや
but
つと思
only
え
the
ばいい
best
わ
parts.
野獣というより
It's a magical beast as opposed to a wild one.
普通の人狼なら対抗手
There
段
are
がある
ways
ん
to
だけ
deal
ど
with regular
ト
werewolves,
ーコが連れ
but
て
the
る
one
の
with
は
Toko
黄
has a
金の毛並
golden
みをした
coat.
怪物でさあれは原初
He's
の
a
人
descendant
狼の
of the
結果
first
で
werewolves,
魔
a
獣を通り越して
transcended
厳
magical
重の域
beast,
に達している
phantasmal beast.
聖域の相手には
To take on such a pure monster, you'd need a mystic with a longer history or some really secret magecraft.
じゃないと
Nothing
侵
else
さ
will
れるん
even
だ
scratch him. Is your... I don't know why your fish commands aren't going through. Hold on. Well, that's embarrassing. Hold on. There you go. Forgot to take the hotkey off of that, apparently. Anyway. To take on such a pure monster, you need a mystic with a longer history or some really secret magecraft. Nothing else will even scratch him.
魔術は万能だけど
Magecraft can do almost
この年
anything,
月の差だけは
but it just
覆せない
can't compete with something so ancient.
ま人間の魔術師
He's
に
the
とって
kind of
天
natural
敵みたいな自
disaster
然
that
災害
any human mage dreads fighting. Also, that, not than. That's a minor spelling error. Her words indicated more admiration than hatred. The way she'd whispered about the wolf strangely made sense to Sojiro. What? Out with it already.
いや要するに
Oh, I was just thinking how there's something out here that even you and Alice can't defeat.
なんてひどいや
It
つ
must be truly awful.
アリスはお腹が裂かれ
It
て
tore apart Alice's stomach,
青
and
崎は
you...
傷ついてないところはないから
you don't have anywhere that wasn't torn apart.
子供なのに
How could a kid... Actually, I guess it's because he's a kid that he doesn't know how to hold back. Sojiro's face was a ghostly pale as he muttered nervously. Aoko merely nodded in agreement.
ほんと
Now you get it. What kid has the nerve to do that to someone's... Wait, what did you just say? Aoko raised her head. She looked as if she'd seen a ghost. Did you just say kid? How the heck did you know that? I realized it was him that day. I'd never seen someone with such golden hair in my life. It has to have been him. I can't believe I forgot. Holy shit. We were deep in the woods. It didn't look anything like the monster you described, though. Kinomi wanted me to run after him. I told him no way, of course. The kid freaked me out. I knew there was no catching him. His tone was as curious as the things he was trying to articulate. Aoko, however, had more pressing matters. Much more pressing. You saw him? Where? At the old school campus. Come to think of it, I might have even met him. Just once when I was working. I delivered 50 kilos of raw beef and... Oh my god, you absolute idiot! That's when they're holed up, bro. Oh my god. The seeds were planted this whole time. I didn't notice. A strangely satisfying slapping sound rang out. Ignoring her wounds completely, Aoko had grabbed a slipper and thrown it at Sojiro's unassuming face as hard as she could. La chancla. She panted as Sojiro was knocked completely out of his chair. For a while, neither moved. What was that for, Aozaki? The boy asked, unfazed, as he slowly picked himself up. He sat cross-legged as Aoko scowled at him like an enemy. What do you think? Who keeps something like that to themselves? I didn't think it was worth mentioning. Even if I had, the two of you would have just gotten mad at me. Aoko knew he was right, and so she swallowed her words. She imagined themselves at dinner. You'll never guess what I did today. I delivered a mountain of beef to an animal. One animal. Rich people live in a different world, am I right? If he had actually said it, Aoko and Alice's response would have been less than cordial. Okay, you're probably right. Anyway, was there really a golden-haired child at the old school building? I don't know whether he was your werewolf. And we've had some strange orders from restaurants in town, especially that Imperial Metropolis near the station. That makes sense. There's no way he could eat without drawing lots of attention to himself. She did not want to believe it, but the child had to be the werewolf. Could Toko really have been so careless as to hide him in plain sight? It didn't matter at this point. With the werewolf's habit revealed, Toko's base had been revealed too. Sorry, with the werewolf's habitat revealed, Toko's base had been revealed too. To take over the bounded field, she needed an inconspicuous place to store materials. Misaki High School's old building was the perfect place. Huh. You were hiding the key to the puzzle this whole time. I wasn't hiding anything. If you'd actually helped with cleaning the back hills, you'd have found out for yourself. You shouldn't have left it to Tobimaru. Excuse me. In response to Sojiro's infallible logic, Aoko snapped her fingers. Instead of another slipper missile, she let the faithful white collar express how she felt. And with the tightening of the collar, Sojiro realized something. Aoko had changed. From the bed, she looked down on him with a commanding glare. Though weak from her injuries, she was as sharp as ever. You would be forgiven for forgetting she was ever a patient. She was raring to fight. It went without saying who her rage was directed at.
Aozaki?
Aoko responded in a vulnerable tone. Perhaps she had been taken by surprise. Now she had an objective. She had been lost in her own little world. Thanks, Sojiro. He expected her to be sarcastic, but this was a little different. She was genuinely thanking him. He had never known her to be like this, and was taken aback. I'm just showing my appreciation because you helped me figure out where Toko's hideout is. Satisfied? Sure. It's nice to be thanked, but are you seriously going after Toko in that condition? Excuse me. His tone was closer to scolding than sympathetic. Aoko simply nodded resolutely. Alright, everybody do me a favor because I think I need this too. Just take a break, stand up wherever you are, stretch out a little bit, take a breath. Just need a moment to gather myself, I suppose. Did you stand up and stretch? I'll know if you didn't. Carrying on. I'm just going to take back what's mine, while I still can. My sister won't waste a moment, and neither will I. She sounded unshakable. Even so, Sojiro would not back down. Even if you've got almost no chance of winning, what you need right now is rest. Yesterday you were really messed up. You still are now. You're lucky to be alive. It's not luck, it's Toko. I don't understand. Toko. She purposely kept me alive to taunt me and make me try again. She's waiting for me so we can settle the score. If she wasn't waiting, she'd have made her move already. As much as it pains me to, I'm taking your words to heart. Irritation tainted Aoko's words. From the side, she'd looked terrifyingly serious. She was ready to fight to the death. Toko had given her little choice. Sojiro could understand neither sister.
殺すために生かしたって
Toko left you alive so she could kill you later?
青崎はそれが分
And
かっ
yet
てい
you're
るの
still
に
going
してい
after
る
her.
そうよ。
Exactly.
ついたけど
She might have won the
まだ
battle,
私た
but
ち
she
の話
hasn't
は
won
終わ
the
ってい
war.
ないもの。確かに全開してから
I know I'd have a
行った方がい
better
いに決まっ
chance
てる
fully healed, but while I'm recovering,
そうして
Toko
い
has
る
gotten her
間に
claws
ト
into
ウコは先に
Misaki.
深部にたどり着く。
That means I need to play my trump card.
私の最後の切り札さえ使えなくなる。自分にできること。
I have to do what I can while I can. Though the pain in her azure eyes was not as deep as the pain of death, it spoke of the regret she would feel if she did not do everything possible while blood still flowed through her veins.
納得いったのなら黙って
Understand now? Good. Then don't try and stop me.
いい。これは
Listen to me,
私の
Sojiro.
あ
You're
な
not
たに
responsible
何
for
の責任も
anything.
関わりもない。
Not my
私
life,
の人生
and not this fight.
座して死を
And
待
I
つなんて
refuse
ま
to
っぴ
sit
ら
in
ごめん
bed
よ。
waiting to die.
勝つ気があるの。
Who'd do that if they
いつま
felt
で
they
も
could
ベッドで
win?
寝てるわけにはいかないでしょ。
Sojiro was dumbstruck. Aoko could never let anyone else get involved. Whether that was because she cared or cared less, he couldn't tell. What he did understand, though, was if he wanted to stop her, he would have to do so with his bare hands. And he knew better than to try that. Even so, he had to ask one last question. If he did not, he would not be able to live with himself after leaving this room.
わからないな
I don't get why you need to
青
go
崎
to
は
these
なんでそこ
lengths.
までするのか俺には想像もできない君を縛っているのは
Is it out of obligation? Or are you just forcing yourself? There was a sadness in his eyes. However, Aoko was unmoved by them.
らしくなく難しい
It's
こと
not
聞い
like
て
you
くる
to
のね
ask something so deep.
いいわ。
Alright,
口にして
I'll
も仕
answer,
方のな
even
い
though
こ
it
とだ
won't
け
change
ど答え
anything.
てあげる。その二つはね
To be honest,
常に
I'm
私
caught
を圧
between the
迫し
two.
てるものだと思う。けど勘違いはし
Don't
な
get
い
me
で
wrong, though. Any sense of obligation, compulsion, pride, or fear
周りから
comes
与
from
えら
me
れた
and
も
me
のじゃない
alone.
トウコと戦うのを
My
やめたとこ
grandfather
ろで
wouldn't be mad if I
祖父
stopped
は
fighting
私を叱ら
Toko.
ないだろうし
I doubt
アリ
Alice
ス
would
も文
complain
句は言わ
either.
ないでしょう。ここで逃げても
If I chose to
それ
run,
はそれで
nobody would
誰
give
に
it a
とって
second
も
thought.
どうでもいい話になって終わる
That's why this is all on me.
だから他人は関係ない本当に意味なんてない
I
の
know
よ
it doesn't make a lot of sense,
でも
but I
私は
won't run
トウコ
away
から
from
逃げたり
Toko.
しないこれはただの
All that matters is proving to myself that I'm alive.
私は単に
I know that my life has no meaning.
できること
And
を
that's
全
why
部
I
やる
can
って
do
決めた
anything.
だけなんだから
With fiery passion, Aoko Aozaki had said her piece. Sojiro was left with a pang in his chest. He did not know why, but her words angered him. Then again, at the same time, her self-confidence had him in wonder. Even though she had said that her life had no meaning, her stubbornness gave meaning to everything.
じゃあそれ
So,
は
would that still
Tatoi.
apply if... Without thinking, he started to ask another question. Maybe he wanted to change her mind. Maybe he just wanted to hear her answer.
たとえ他の誰も
If, say, no one was watching. It came out as a murmur. Indeed, if no one was watching, no one could know that she had fled. This was the situation Aoko was in. Even so, she shot him down instantly.
あら見てるわよ
Someone's always
少
watching
な
you,
くとも私自身が
even if it's only yourself. Her expression brightened, possibly because she had been surprised at having to state the obvious. Sojiro was wide-eyed in shock, but Aoko remained nonchalant.
知らないの宗十郎
Haven't you figured it out yet, Sojiro? Nobody watches you more than you. That's why you have to stay on your toes.
だから人生っていうのは油断ならないんじゃない
Sojiro did not respond to her somewhat exasperated tone, but simply rose to his feet. He looked defeated, which was not like him at all.
宗次郎
すまない。
I'm sorry.
君が素晴らしい
I
こと
know
を
you're saying something really incredible.
けど、
It's just
俺にはわか
I
らない。
don't understand it. He meekly walked toward the door. As he placed his hand on the doorknob, he paused. For a few seconds, he fought with himself, desperately trying to think of something to say. No words came forth, and so he opened the door, which swung with a strange creak, and he left the room. After watching him go, Aoko turned her gaze toward the window. It was nearly evening. A thin veil of darkness was threatening to descend on the town outside. By evening, only Sojiro remained in the chapel. He sat alone at the end of a pew, slouching helplessly like a guilty believer ready to confess. The chilly air seeped through the walls, turning breath to mist. The frigid air stole the heat from the body without mercy. Sojiro looked around at the chapel's tall ceiling and spacious hall. The room made the air feel colder somehow. Unsure of what to do with himself, he stared into space. His thoughts were entirely unfocused. First and foremost, he could not understand what the buzzing sensation was in his chest. Time passed by. No answers came. To onlookers, he must have seemed deep in thought, or in a deep sleep, like he would turn to stone if left be. Either way, he clearly looked down. The problem was his lack of awareness. Not that he was aware of it, of course. Worshipping at this hour? You're quite the devotee. Sojiro raised his head and turned to where the voice had come from. Stood before the altar was the man from last night, dressed in priestly garbs. How long had he been standing there? Sound reverberated dryly through the chapel hall. Sojiro did not have the strength to stand, let alone leave. He just stared at the approaching shadow. Though you'll not find the Holy Spirit in this church. Do you mind if I sit? The priest pointed at Sojiro's pew. Without waiting for an answer, he took a seat at the opposite end. I never formally introduced myself. I'm Eri Fumitsuka, this church's owner, you could say, on paper at least. Call me Father Eri. You must be Sojiro Shizuki, yes? I can see why Yuika didn't notice you. Father Eri spoke in a gentle but uninvested tone. He was a thorough egoist. Sojiro knew all too well about people who spoke this way. The individual who cared for him when he first came down from the mountain was one of them. Sojiro glanced across at him apathetically. Father Eiri seemed unfazed by the lack of direction to the conversation.
少し君と話がしたいのですが、よろしいでしょうか。
Excuse me. I was wondering if I could speak with you for a moment. Sojiro responded with a nod. Father Eiri replied with an artificial smile.
青子が心配のよう
You
です。
seem terribly worried about Aoko.
別に
Not really.
リツカさんにもそう聞
Ritsuka
かれ
said
ま
the
したけ
same
ど
thing to me, but
青
that's
崎の
not
心
it.
配はしていないんです。
Sojiro stared straight ahead as he answered, his voice sounding uncharacteristically weak and unsure.
けど
She's been on my mind a lot, and I don't know why. I'm trying to
そ
figure
れが
that
何だ
out.
か分からなくてさっきから考えてる最中です。
簡単ですよ。
The answer is
君
simple.
は単
You envy
に
her.
青子に嫉妬しているのです。
With those few words, Sojiro snapped out of his funk. He clapped his hands and turned toward the priest.
そっか。
I see.
俺は単に
So I just
青
envy
崎
her.
が羨ましかっただけなんだ。いや、でも
Wait a
それ
second.
は困るな。
That can't be good.
自分の中に
I don't know. I didn't know I could feel that
気
way.
づきもしなかった。
Father Eiri did not respond to his confession-like ramblings.
それで
So, what did you want to talk to me about?
いえ、
Well, it's more of a question I'd like to ask, really.
君は今まで山奥
I
に
heard
住
you
んで
lived deep in the mountains until recently.
そこで一つ
Something strikes me as curious.
気になることは
Really?
ですか？
What?
はい。
Well, I doubt anyone has asked you this
今まで誰
before.
もあなたにこの手の質問をしなかったのでしょう。それはあなたが
No doubt because you
他
don't
人にその手の
unnerve
不
the
安を
people
感じ
around
させ
you.
ないからです。
I admit I feel the same way
私
talking
も
to
そう
you.
思いますし。ですからな。
Maybe it's opportunity presenting itself, or my sense of obligation as a man of the cloth.
迷える
But when I
子羊
see
が
a
いるんです
lost
から
lamb, I feel
そ
a
れなりの
need to
務めを
guide
果た
it.
さないと後ろめたいというから。
Father Eiri looked at Sojiro placidly. His pupils were like black holes that could suck the soul out of your body.
おかしなことが気になるんです
I'm
ね。
not sure what you're talking about.
その
What's your
質問というのは
question exactly?
いえ、
Oh, don't
ご
worry.
く自然の
It's
疑
nothing
問です。
unusual.
あなたはなぜ山から
Simply,
降りてきたのか。
why did you come down
そ
here?
こでなら
You seem like
君は
you'd be
幸福
happier
だった
back
でしょう
home.
ね。
Sojiro was not sure what he had done, but it sounded as though the priest was accusing him of something. Then again, it was a reasonable question, if a little pointless. Sojiro had no answer. Father Eiri ignored the sullen boy and continued.
山での生活がいかに厳しいものか私も人の目に
I'm
は知ってい
somewhat
ます
aware of the challenges a life in the mountains
ち
might
ょっと
bring.
した手違いで遭
I
難した
experienced
こ
it
とがあります
firsthand when I made a small mistake in my youth.
山での生活はこの
Life in the
上なく
mountains
簡
is
素です
incredibly simple.
何しろ
Your
生きること
time
に
is dedicated to
時間を割く
survival.
余裕がない
You don't live for joy,
楽しむた
but
めに
rather
生きる
to
ので
stay
はな
alive.
く生きるために
It makes a minimalist lifestyle
生
seem
活
full
は
of
必要最
excess.
小限をさらに切り詰めたものとなっていく山での生活に
Compared to
比べれ
that,
ば
city life should be nothing short of
楽
paradise.
園以外の何者でもないでしょうですが
However,
楽園の定義は
paradise
人
means
それぞれ
something
です
different to everyone. Sojiro still did not answer. His expression remained blank. The only sound was the priest's voice echoing around the chapel.
一粒の種の
A
誕
life
生
where
すら
even a
喜びを
single
生み出す
seed could bring joy.
電気の明かり
No
が
matter the
どれだけ
warmth
暖かく
that
ても
the light of
自然
electricity
のままの
brings,
厳しい寒さを
I expect you respect the bitter cold of nature more.
なのになぜ
So tell me,
降りてきたのですか
why come here when you'd be happier in the
君は
mountains?
幸せだったでしょう
Father Eiri repeated his question. Sojiro's mouth remained firmly shut. Not because he did not want to answer, but because he simply did not know how to. All he knew was even if he wanted to go back, he could not.
困ったものです
My son,
そこをはっきり
salvation
させない
will
こと
not
に
be
は
forthcoming to those who choose to ignore its calling.
故郷を捨てた理由もわか
If
ら
you
ない
don't know why you
旅
left,
先の土地を愛
you
せるこ
won't
と
be
なんて
able to love
まっ
where
と
you
うな人間に
arrived.
はできませんよこれは忠告です
A
が
word of advice.
全てを無条件に肯定し
Happiness
たところ
doesn't
で
come from the
幸福になれるとは限りま
unquestionable
せん
acceptance of everything.
あなたはもう少
Be
し
fairer to
自分の
yourself.
心を許してあげないと
Sojiro could not make sense of what he was being told. Only the father's last words made any impression on him. Being fairer to yourself is easier said than done, of course. And what that entailed, Sojiro was uncertain of. Actually, that makes sense. Toko had mentioned something similar before, and it had impressed him. First her, now this priest. How could people know things he hadn't even told them?
すごいですね。
Wow.
神父さんっていうの
Are
は
all priests
みんな
like you?
そうなんですか。
Sojiro said, curious as to where the weight on his shoulders had gone to. In a way, one of his strong points is the fact that his emotional scars do not show on the surface.
ええ
Indeed,
神父は悩みを
a
暴くのが
priest
仕事
is
ですか
obliged
ら
to shine a light on troubled hearts.
ま
Though,
大
of
抵は暴
course,
くだけで
that's not always
埋める
enough.
のに失敗するんですけどね
By shine a
悩みを
light,
暴
do
く
you
って
mean talk things over?
つまり相談事ですか。
そういうソフトなのも
Yes,
承る
to a certain extent at least.
私が解決
The
で
only
きる
problems
悩
I
み
can
と
solve are
ただ
mostly
知れてい
small.
るようですけど
The priest shrugged, looking a little disconcerted. Granted, Sojiro still did not trust Father Aerty at all, but at that moment, anyone was a ray of light in his eyes.
じゃあ、たかが知れた
Do
程
you
度の
mind
悩
helping
み
me
を
with another
聞いてもら
small
えますか。
problem?
君が青子をな
You
ぜ
want to
羨
know
む
why you're envious of Aoko, correct? It was as though the priest could see into the boy's soul with his serene eyes. ま
まあ、そう
Yeah.
いうことです。自分でも
I
ど
don't
うして
even
そう
know
思う
why
の
I
か
feel
は
this
わ
way
からない
myself.
でもあなたなら
But
それ
you
を知っ
seem
てそう
to.
だ。
知りませんけど
I don't.
まあ
I can simply
無責
guess,
任に答えましょうか
not being the one to shoulder the burden.
それはおそらく
Your envy may come from your lack of a foundation,
自分の色がない
or more
と例え
accurately,
た方が正
your
確
lack of a color of your own. Sojiro squinted, trying to understand the priest's complicated yet concise answer.
ほら
This is what I'm talking about.
君に優れた部分
You're
があるとしたら
extraordinarily flexible.
その順応性です山という
You
異界
learned
か
to
ら
live
街に
alone in a city after coming down from the mountains.
ようやく慣れ
And
た
then,
常識
once you'd gotten used to that,
青子たちという
you
非
started
常
living
識
with
と変わ
Aoko
って
and
暮らし
Alice
てい
in
る
a very different world.
そうであると努め
I
ている
don't
に
know
して
if you consciously
あ
try
なた
to
の
adapt,
順応性は
but
際立っている
regardless, your ability to do so is astonishing.
原因は知りませんが
Also, I don't know why, but you do not appear to exhibit signs of a regular ego.
何事にも対応できる
You can
者
respond to anything,
主に
but
交わる
aren't
ほどの
influenced by it.
強いて言うの
To be
なら
frank, you're a blank canvas that stays blank.
風景に溶け込
While
む
blending
自然さ
into your
は素晴らしい
surroundings is
人
a
徳です
wonderful
が
thing, no sense of self means having no
居
place
場
to
所がな
call
いという
home.
ことですからいいことばかりじゃ
Your
ありません
talent is a double-edged sword.
ユイカにまで
The
言え
fact
ない
that Yuika
という
didn't
の
see
は
you
予
was
想以上で
unexpected.
したが姿なき精霊すら
She can
捉えるあ
perceive
れが見え
even
なかったのですから
incorporeal elemental spirits,
君の無欲
and
ぶり
yet
も
not
筋
you.
金入りだ
That says a lot about your lack of greed. As if amused by something, Father Eiri grinned. However, Sojiro understood neither the meaning of his smile nor his words. This is mere speculation, but I believe Aoko feels resentment when she looks at you. To a brazen soul like her, your lack of self is something she simply cannot accept. And yet, you see something in Aoko you could never attain. It feels crude to put such things into words, but it is what it is. A moment ago, I said you envied Aoko, but that's not quite true. In fact, you... No. Never mind. Some things are best left unsaid. Father Eiri smiled gently. It was a fresh-faced grin that belied his age. Whenever it came to Aoko, he seemed to forget his role as a priest. But that was irrelevant to Sojiro. So, Father, what exactly do I admire about Aoko, then? Sojiro responded to Father Eiri's rambling by being direct. Some would say the priest had been direct himself, but this was Sojiro, and he needed things spelled out. You still don't get it. Then you have me beat, Sojiro. Some things really are difficult to put into words. Then again, I am simply a man of the cloth. How about a change of tack? Do you know about Aoko's past? Not much. She told me some weird stuff I didn't understand about her start to high school and things. So by not much, you mean nothing. Very well, Shizuki. Allow me to try something more abstract. If you were suddenly told to kill yourself, could you? Kill myself? Yes, kill yourself. Of course, a priest shouldn't talk about such things, but my appearance is only skin deep. Anyway, Aoko was asked to do something along those lines when she was 15. Throw away her hopes and dreams, her past and future, everything she was up to that point. Become a different being entirely. Well, the end of yourself is the end of your future, wouldn't you agree? His words fit what Aoko had said about her past. Until middle school, she led a normal life. Then, out of the blue, she became the family heiress in place of her sister. Becoming a magician meant casting aside the life that she had known. She had to leave behind her ambitions and prospects and live the life of a mage, something she barely knew anything about. Her life up to that point had taught her that everything from then on would bring her misery. Aoko's grandfather was not the forceful type. Your sister has failed, now it's your turn, he had said. Did Aoko resist? Sojiro could not begin to imagine. All he knew is that she could not have been happy with the hand she was dealt. Even if the life of a magician was attractive, to believe the possibility that Aoko could give up her lifestyle up to that point was to not know her at all. Aoko Aozaki put her all into everything. She had probably achieved a lot in those 15 years. Her achievements and prospects were no doubt enough to make anyone jealous. But did she have the conviction to throw those away and go back to square one? Just want to give you a clean shot of the artwork here. I think it's really nice. Oh, it's a good thing I did. And Square One did not come close to the reality of it. The future she had envisioned for so long would have been obliterated. So what did Aoko do? Well, we are talking about one exceptionally stubborn girl. Had I not witnessed it myself, I wouldn't have believed it, but she nodded. She stood there defiantly, curling her shaking fingers into balled fists. Not to appease her grandfather, not out of obligation to the Aozaki family, but because she hates to run away from anything. Now, refusing something is not the same as running away from it, but try telling that to Aoko. To her, running away would be rejecting the life she'd forged. If that was all to go, she would say farewell on her own terms. So that was what she did. Extreme. But she's the kind of person who would sacrifice everything in the name of progress. An affectionate smile crossed Father Aerides' face. Rather than signaling his closeness to Aoko, it conveyed the pride of a guardian. However, I was also mistaken. As it turns out, Aoko had been raised to become a mage all along. Her grandfather predicted Toko would leave, and that Aoko would become his heiress, so he raised them both accordingly. As a priest, if only by name, I felt uncomfortable about that. I knew she had no interest in her new role. Things could hardly go exactly how her grandfather had planned. So I asked her to flee with me to Mexico. Alas, she turned me down without a moment's thought. I still remember every word of her answer. Well, me crying isn't going to change anything, is it? If I'm the only one who can do it, I'll do it. Even if I get thrown to the wolves, I'll just have to find a way to survive. Running away is only a last resort. Until then, hear me roar. The priest recited her words as if recalling lines from a favorite play. It certainly seemed like something she would say. The last thing Aoko said in the room, she was recovering in, probably meant the same. Sorry, let me do that one again. The last thing Aoko said in the room she was recovering in probably meant the same. Of course, when an audience is watching, you want their approval. However, approval must come from within first. Aoko worked to feel proud of herself before worrying about how others viewed her. She at least wanted to do her job with grace. In response to everything she had lost, she would hang in there, even if it meant going it alone. As for why Sojiro envied her, well, that was obvious. To Sojiro, she lived her life with her head held high. He was a boy who accepted everything, but had nothing. She was a girl who threw it all away, but never lost a thing. He stood in the meeting room alone, seeing the ugliness within, and the sublime outside. Looking back, he finally realized what was eating at him. I think you see
君
it
は青子
now.
の容姿に感じ入っ
It's
た
not
の
her
ではなく
appearance that strikes you as
青
beautiful,
崎青子という
but her
生き方
spirit.
に感じ入ったのです。ま、
Not that she
青子は
isn't
青子で
physically beautiful,
れっ
of
きとし
course.
た美人ですが、
Sojiro nodded. From the day he first met her, that was indeed how he had felt. It just took him till now to realize it. The strength in her eyes and her unwavering will had captured his heart.
なんか
She
すごい汗が
puts up with a lot.
本
She really does.
当に小娘のくせ
There's a
に
lot of fight packed into that small frame. Father Airi spoke from the heart. Sojiro raised his head, gave a small grin, and scratched his cheek. So many hours wasted brooding like an idiot. A part of him still felt strange, but it didn't bother him to leave the question unsolved for now. Unable to stay still, he stood up. He couldn't care less about the Aozaki family, mage battles, or Aoko rushing off to her death. Right now, he just wanted to see her face.
お待ちなさい。
Stop.
病室は
The
立ち
recovery
入り
room
禁
is
止
off
です。
limits. The cold words echoed around the chapel. They reached Sojiro as he was about to head back to Aoko. The sightless sister must have been waiting by the altar. She moved quickly to block his path.
ユイカさん
Miss Yuika.
今病室
I'm
には
not
入
allowed
れない
in.
んですか？
はい。
Correct.
しばらく
Miss
人よ
Kuonji
けを
told
し
me
て
to
ほ
make
しい
sure
と
nobody
ク
enters.
オンジ様からことづかっています。
アリスが
Alice said that? Sojiro was suspicious of why Alice would have said that. He could understand being kept out if Aoko was being treated, or her condition had worsened, but this seemed different. And besides, Aoko herself said her treatment had finished.
人がいいのですね。
Now, now, Sister
シスターユイカ
Yuika.
は
There's no need to be
そ
so
んな方
curt.
便をしなくてもいいんですよ。はっきり言ってあ
Why
げれば
not
いい。
just tell him the truth?
今から病室に
That the
行って
room
も
is
無駄
actually
です
empty.
と。青子はとっくに出
Aoko
発しているん
left
ですか
some
ら。
time ago.
エイリ神父。
But Father Airi... The priest began to explain everything from the pew he still sat in. About the things he and Sojiro had spoken about. And why he, a stranger, would be so concerned about a person he knew nothing about. It all became clear to Sojiro.
初めからそのつもりだったん
This was your plan all along. Sojiro's voice was full of anger, but Father Airi did not flinch.
申し訳ありません。
My apologies.
青子にあなたの
Aoko
ことを
requested
頼ん
I
だの
look after you.
彼女の準備が整う
While
ま
I
で
did
の
need to
時
buy
間
her
稼
time
ぎ
to
でした。
prepare, I honestly
私
did
があ
want
な
to
た
talk
と
to you.
話をしたかったのは事実ですよ。
The priest's attempt to smooth things over was far from sincere. Sojiro grit his teeth to control his rage. Why had they not stopped Aoko and Alice from heading towards certain death? Because both the nun and priest were of the same ilk as the mages. As such, they understood Aoko's decision, and the priest understood Aoko too. Even if he did have the power to stop her, he would not have. The Aoko Aozaki he knew was not about to hide away in a church and lick her wounds.
アリスは
Where's Alice?
青子と行きました。
With Aoko. They left about 30 minutes ago. Father Airi even went so far as to divulge the time. 30 minutes ago. The same time the priest reared his head. It would not take even half that long to get to the school from here. And then another 10 minutes or less to get to Misaki High's old school building from there. Sojiro turned to the entrance of the chapel. However...
待ちなさい。
Stop.
どこへ行くつも
Where
り
do
で
you
すか？
think you're going? The sound of her voice stopped him in his tracks. An unseen pressure had locked him in place. Her admonitions seemed to carry a spellbinding power, stopping the foolhardy boy where he stood. You know nothing of mage battles. You're too weak to help. You'd be a liability. If they fall, that's their prerogative. Let them tear each other apart as they wish. A young, innocent bystander like you has no business taking part in such a calamity. She spoke with quiet anger. Her contempt was not directed at Aoko or Alice, though, but Sojiro for being so eager to waste his life. If there was a shred of hope, I wouldn't stop you. But there isn't. There's nothing you can do for them either. She was right. It would be pointless of him to go. At the amusement park, he had been useless in the end. Now they faced something even worse. He couldn't even imagine how he might contribute this time. Listen carefully. Aoko Aozaki's grandfather trained her to protect herself. Magecraft aside, she's still tougher than you. Even so, she still doesn't stand a chance against that beast of a familiar. Sojiro's physical strength, his only edge, meant nothing. If he went now, he would only get in their way. Yuika was correct. And yet, I have to go. I owe Aoko a debt I must repay. He spoke calmly, but firmly. Though almost moved, the sister frowned slightly. She felt bad for him, but her warning was for his own good. If he would not listen to reason, then she would have to make him sleep. She raised a finger of binding at Sojiro. You mean you want to repay your debt, Sojiro? Incidentally, Sister Yuika, please refrain from using magecraft within the church. At least save it for religious ceremonies, or it'll affect my investigation. Dear Lord, give me strength. You seem so quiet, Sojiro, but you're more short-tempered than Ritsuka. If I may, Father Eiri, I see no harm in letting him go. Or would you rather see Toko destroy Aoko and Alice? That issue is separate from this suicidal devotion. Reconsider, Mr. Shizuki. Even if you go, there's nothing you can do for them. The truth of the statement cut Sojiro deep. But despite everything that was being said, his mind was made up. It always had been. Even if he was not certain, he at least would not hesitate. He had always followed his instincts to the end, no matter where they took him. I know, but I'm still going. If I stay here, I really am powerless. His heart burned in his chest. While he listened to the priest talk, he could only think of seeing Aoko. He was not worried. He did not want to help. He just wanted to see her. He would figure out what came next once he got there. See, he isn't suicidal. You say he'll get in the way, but Aoko and Alice stand no chance of winning anyway, correct? So what's the problem? Better to burn out in a blaze of glory. Father. What are you waiting for, Sojiro? Get going. Your response has moved Sister Yuika. And now you can move your legs, right? As soon as the priest pointed at Sojiro, he could move again. The pressure weighing on his shoulders lifted, along with the fear in his heart. Could he help? Would he expose Aoko and Alice to more danger? All such doubts vanished.
行きます。
I'm heading
縁
out
が
then.
残っていれば、ま
With
た
any luck, we'll meet again.
はい。
Good.
なんであれ
Whatever happens,
後悔のない
no regrets. And with that, Sojiro began to run, as Father Airi watched with a look of satisfaction. The priest knew if he could not persuade Aoko, he could not convince Sojiro either. He watched the impetuous boy run away, as the blind nun listened to his footsteps fade into the distance. Yuiko was different from Sojiro and the priest. While she showed no mercy to corruption or self-righteousness, she embraced benevolence to the innocent. Such an ordinary boy with his life ahead of him, and yet he chose to follow heretics into hell.
最悪ですね。
How can you live with yourself, Father Airi?
分別のつか
I
ない
thought
子供を
responsible
導
adults
くのは
guided wayward
責
children.
任のある大人だと思いましたが、
She made no effort to hide her biting disapproval. It was simply her way of showing concern for the boy. Father Airi shrugged.
だから
You are mistaken about a few things, Sister Yuka. Your use of the term responsible adult, for a start. An adult is someone who takes responsibility no matter what. The rest went unspoken. It didn't matter to him which of them died. With a warm, goodly smile, the priest corrected the nun's misunderstanding. And there you have it. This next chapter, the second half of Witch on the Holy Night, is going to be something. For those of you not in the know, this image doesn't really mean anything, but to me, and certain other Fate fans, these flowers might look familiar. This is where it goes down. But, unfortunately, that's going to have to wait until next week. Look at me in my monocle and top hat, banana all stream. I sure hope I wasn't as goofy as it sometimes felt like. Look at the way my eyeball moves under the monocle. It's weird. Anyway, before we conclude for this evening, I'd like to make a couple of adjustments here. Because Gilgamesh is a crazy person, I have to update the subscriber goal again, which I forgot to do before stream because, well, frankly, I was kind of busy. But we're going to do that now. This is not a challenge, but I did have a number in mind, and that is this. $500. Why 500? Well, over the weekend I did some math. Calculating costs and not factoring in taxes. I should be able to do this full time if I can reach 500 monthly recurring subs. Tier 1 subs. I think. This is not a challenge. This is a long-term goal. If we hit the 500 subs from getting gifted and all that crazy stuff, nothing's going to change immediately. If we can consistently hit 500 subs, which I'm saying this like it's casual. I understand that that is a ridiculous number, and kind of crazy to achieve, crazy to expect, let alone achieve. If we can hit 500 subscribers monthly, I'll be able to do this full time. I'll be able to dedicate more resources, more of my time, more of my resources to improving the stream, and hopefully snowball that effect. And eventually, things will get better all around for you guys and for me. The follower gauge will, however, remain at 100. But I will leak the fact that I have some plans for the followers towards the end of the month. Wink, wink. The end of next month. I'm going to hold off on saying specifically what those plans are, probably until next week. But hopefully that'll be pretty exciting, because if we hit the 100 followers before I actually leave for WeebCon, that would be crazy. But even if we don't, I still have a plan in place to improve the stream, to kind of, I don't know, I think it's going to be fun. Lots of things for the future. The next 2 weeks, Monday, we're going to have Mythos Monday with Witch on the Holy Night. For the few weeks after that, actually, the next 2 weeks would mean, let me check my calendar here. Next 2 weeks, so the 4th and the 11th. So we're going to take probably 3 weeks off of Mythos Mondays after Witch on the Holy Night. The 18th of March, I don't know what we'll do. Maybe I'll take the day off. Maybe we'll just do a small reading stream or something. Maybe we'll just treat it like a regular stream day and we'll just play video games. The 25th, I will most likely be taking that whole week off in preparation for WeebCon. And then the 1st, obviously, I will still be at WeebCon. I won't be getting back until midnight on the 2nd. So that'll be a time. I might end up taking that whole week off as well, depending on how much energy I have after I get back. But we're at the end of February, folks. Things are heating up. That said, I think PAX East is this weekend. That's something else I wanted to bring up, because there's a Final Fantasy 16 showcase at PAX East that is specifically going to be talking about the Rising Tides DLC. So I'm going to keep my ear to the ground on that, because if the DLC is releasing sometime within the next month, I'll be dedicating a vast majority of our stream time to Final Fantasy 16 New Game Plus, including the DLC, which is going to be a lot of time. It'll probably be every stream up till WeebCon. However, if DLC is not going to be releasing until, say, mid-April, we're not going to worry about that. who's to say what the future will hold? For now, though, let's focus on the rest of this week. Tomorrow, we'll probably be back to your regularly scheduled Persona 3 reload. Wednesday, I'll have to push stream back a little bit. We're not going to be able to start until 6-ish. But we will be... I will be trying to hop back into Final Fantasy XIV. Going to be a bit of a learning curve, but depending on how I play my cards, I might be able to actually stream that longer than or later than 9 p.m. So we might be able to have a casual, low energy MMO grindy type stream. That could be fun. And then Thursday might be more Persona 3 Reload, might be more Final Fantasy XIV, might be finally Helldivers. I don't know. I'll see if I can't reach out to some people and maybe get a collab going. Because I've kind of been wanting to play. I've been wanting to play more Helldivers than I've really had time to, and I've been wanting to stream with somebody. Narrative Sora reached out to me one time, but unfortunately our schedules didn't work out. I'll try and get in contact with some people and see if we can hang out, if we can spread the love a little bit, hang out, play games, and combine our communities, as it were. No word on any more new emotes. I'm not trying to pressure Tobias. I know that he's got a lot of other things on his plate, so please be patient for that. In the meantime, feel free to use the emote that we do have as much as you want. I like it a lot. It makes me happy every time I see it. Was there anything else that I wanted to mention? I've done a lot of brainstorming over this past week. As far as cosplays for WeebCon, I've got one of them in the mail. It is Grimjow Jaggerjack from Bleach. It's gonna be... It's made... It's not like custom made. It's not made to order. I didn't make it myself. I bought it online. Fits pretty well. I have to work on styling the wig. And the shoes are like... The shoes are like genuinely made out of grass. It's fucking weird. But yeah, we've got cosplay number 1, Grimjow Jaggerjack. I don't know which day of the con I'm going to be wearing it. Last I checked, let me check again right now. Last I checked, there was no schedule up for the con. I kind of want to see what the schedule looks like before I make my final decision on what cosplays I want to wear on what days. Yeah, it does not look like there is a schedule up. I'm searching, I'm watching, I am looking. Schedule's coming soon. Alright, we still don't have a schedule. So, Grimjow will be one day of the weekend. I don't know which, but I'll be sure to post photos when I'm down there. It should be fun. On that note, follow my Twitter. I should have links in my About page. So, that'll be fun. Also follow me for schedule updates in case I need to move streams around. I don't know, I'm thinking a mile ahead. I'm thinking a whole month ahead of where I'm at presently, but I'm just excited for the future, you know? Excited for the future and really tired in the present because it's all I've been doing is thinking and planning and plotting and trying to figure out what I can and can't talk about. But I think that's enough of my rambling for now. So, let's see if we can find... I can't believe Sojiro died. Oh no, it's all over. Good to see you, Tobias. I'm glad you can make it now that we're ending stream. Let's see who we can rate. Oh fuck. You were lurking earlier? Excellent. Excellent. I'm glad you could catch it. Next week's stream is probably going to be, not the finale, but it will definitely be, you're going to want to be here. Trust. I don't know if the stream settings will let me do this. Oh fuck, let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him, you love him, or if you don't, then you should, and you will. Tonight we'll be rating Heavenly Father, playing some fucking Lethal Company. I'm gonna preface this by saying I don't know Heavenly, but I recognize him from a lot of Russian Badgers content, and he is a very funny guy, and he's also a VTuber. But he's a cool 3D VTuber with a very distinct style. So if you don't know him already, I think you might like him. Anyway, he's very cool. Makes very good content. He's very, very much bigger than me. So be nice, say hi, fucking hashtag raid leaf, all that good stuff. I'm gonna like take a nap or something. I don't know. I don't know. Bye, have a good time.